Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the CEO of 25/8. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. I thought it about time that I actually introduced myself because I haven't done so before, and you might like to know who I am. Who am I to tell you about business? And at least this gives you some idea of my background. Before my business, 10 years, I was an international sales and marketing director. So I worked for a number of organizations, quite large organizations with global teams. I got to do a lot of travel. I got to understand a lot of different markets. I had partnerships in all but two countries. And had, great relationships with a lot of those partners, some of which determined some of where I lived. I lived in New York because one partner wanted me to be part of the acquisition deal. So I worked with them on that. So after New York, I moved to Melbourne, Australia with my old company to open an office here to establish an Asia Pacific base and still manage the global sales and marketing, but from here instead. And I did that for a number of years before moving on to another organization called Lonely Planet. In order to stay in Australia, the GSC had hit. My company wanted me back in the UK. My MD at the time said in the board meeting, "We need you back." Half joking, but I knew he wasn't. And I thought, well, I need to determine now whether I want my job or I want to stay in Australia. And I chose Australia. I ended up getting a job here, and through that, I was able to stay in Australia and build sales for Lonely Planet. So a very similar role, involved in some digital tools. But that similarly transitioned because of an acquisition, and I started to question what was important to me again in life. I ended up enrolling at Melbourne Uni to do a Masters of Teaching. My degree was in geography. I was a sales and marketing executive, but I saw the benefit of understanding how people learn and educate. I believe that education is probably the most important thing. It's a catalyst to change for people. And so I part-time did a Masters of Teaching while still at Lonely Planet. And without really understanding where that was going to lead me, I did do some teaching experience in a high school in Melbourne, but soon realized that teaching VCE was probably not for me. And then started to really think about what I was going to do. And at this time, there was a series of redundancies at Lonely Planet. A lot of my friends were considering what to do themselves, and I was advising them how to start and how to grow a business. And so I thought, well, maybe I could do this for a job. I met my business partner, Phil, in 2000. He had a brand background, and so we thought together we'd be able to create something of impact. It would help people, good people, with their marketing, with their sales. And we started the business then. But over time, the company has changed, has transformed. There's many things that have happened, COVID being one. You have to sort of question what it is you can do, where you can provide value. Prior to COVID, we'd been funded by LaunchVic, the startup agency in Victoria, to educate, to help startups build a marketing strategy. And we'd been able to deliver this to 100 startups because we'd designed the program to combine a sort of hybrid blended learning concept. And so we'd rolled this out over 18 months, and that had gone really well. And we'd built these little communities, and the impact to the people that had gone through that program was enormous. And so when COVID hit, and we had a number of businesses at the time, we needed to question, where can we focus? What can we do to provide the most amount of value? Educational programs around business were what we wanted to focus on, and where we could provide value, especially in digital tools, the use of digital, but really about that leadership, strategic thinking, the things that you need to consider before engaged in any tactic, making good use of your time, making sure that any action that you take gets the most amount of return. So the group of businesses that we have was called 25/8. And so we just embodied the idea of 25/8, the fact that we were here to solve the biggest problem for small and medium-sized businesses, which was time to work on their business, time for themselves, time to grow, all of the things. Time was the biggest thing that came back for everyone, and 25/8 wanted to embody that. We also then engaged R&D, research and development, into how we could really, in a short space of time, build skills, but use AI in its basic form at that time to help us do that, to pinpoint what it was that people needed to know right now, what they needed to do. And so we really focused on understanding those business challenges, but also understanding the people behind business and how we could do the most we could in a short amount of time to make sure that they survived. And through the 10 years that we have been in existence, we've served thousands, tens of thousands of businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. We've run programs to hundreds of individuals on behalf of government. We've conducted research. We've collected information. We've got evidence and backing to show what it is will work, essentially, for different people, and know some of the things are being able to pinpoint those things for different businesses so that they can succeed. And for me, it's really important that we have small and medium-sized business. What started as being able to help our friends and being able to help good people is really driven by this idea that when you come from a large organization, you've seen an SME be acquired. I've worked through a number of mergers and acquisitions. I can see the soul of the company slowly disappear when it's more about stakeholders in a shareholder sense than it is about the customer and the impact and the people within the business. And slowly the business changes and priorities change. And then, what was a great company starts to lose its soul, starts to, it's that mass production of things. And that sometimes it can be good, it serves us all well, but after a time you start to question what it's about, really, whether it's about taking money, getting everyone's money, or whether it is really about solving problems. And so small and medium-sized businesses, the backbone of society. They employ more people, regardless of what we might assume in thinking that the large organizations provide all these employment opportunities. It's actually SMEs. They're the ones that employ the most amount of people. So without them, we don't have as much decent work and economic development. And we don't have as much choice as consumers. We're not able to buy from people who are really passionate about what we do. And it would be so sad if we lost the crafts or the ways of doing things because we valued, low value, low cost, disposable things that lost that essence, that lost the purpose and passion about what it is that they do. And I know that not everyone feels the same. Convenience and is about cost of living. But I think being able to treasure something that has been made in such a way, being able to support local manufacturers, being able to understand the supply chain and realize that everyone within it is valued, are really important. I think they'll become more important. And potentially as we see the world become more focused on how we can increase productivity through technology, I think there will also be a need for us to increase our human skills. And there'll also be an increase in a desire for handmade, artisan, the human touch as well. And so we'll have this balance between the two. And the other side of supporting small and medium-sized business is that they don't always have the same supports that a large business has. Now, I've worked in a number of organizations in global capacity for over 20 years. But a lot of people that start business might not have a business background. They might just be really passionate about what they do. They might want to take their craft to market so that other people can buy it. And they might not have the time or the inclination to learn some of those business side of things. And so that's where they need to fill the gap. Or they feel like they should do all of these things. They should be this kind of business person and they should be this kind of leader, without realizing that you can do business. You can do business on your own terms. It doesn't have to be in a way that you think it should be. And that's really what I want to be able to empower people, especially small and medium-sized business owners, managers, is to empower them to understand how they can run their business on their terms, is to give them the tools, the confidence that they're able to do that. And that's what I feel like I'm called to do through the business. And I love working with government partners so that I'm able to deliver programs in local communities and they're in a cohort and we build those connections. Equally, I love working direct with business one-on-one so that I can really make a difference for them as well, but do so in a way that is accessible, is flexible. I know what business is like and that you never find time for things. Design it in a way that is flexible, that fits in with your schedule, that isn't asking you to create something that's a 60-page report, but isn't asking you to follow a checklist or a blueprint that will be redundant in a year's time. It's giving you the skills, it's giving you frameworks that you can use in the short space of time to give you the answers, to give you the confidence to be able to move forward. And so that's me, that's my background, that's the business. And I hope through this podcast and through the interviews with some of the business owners, you'll start to understand that you can do business on your terms, but it really is about what you make time for. And there's so much we can do. There is so much we can do in business, so many things. It's making time for the most important thing and being able to move that dial and move it incrementally without getting overwhelmed and realizing that you should have some space around you, breathing space. We could do 1,000 things, but if you're not operating properly, then it's not going to work. So do it in a way, making time for your business, but making time for yourself as well, and in a way that helps you move, keep growing, because there's nothing wrong with growing slowly, only standing still. And knowing where you're going, knowing what to do is the first step. Knowing where to start, understanding where you need to get to, all of those things is like setting a GPS in your map. And hopefully I can help you figure those things out, give you some tips along the way, or at least some inspiration and confidence that you are a great business person. There's just a few gaps that you might need that will help you get to the next stage. And I'll see you in the next episode.